Sportscast, second show of the day. If you haven't yet, please subscribe in all our channels, Periscope, iTunes, and YouTube. And if you're in iTunes, please leave a rating and review. You have no idea how much that will help us move up in the rankings. And visit us on thesportscast.net, thesportscast.net for the latest news in college football. A lot of changes going on with college coaches and players transferring. So go to thesportscast.net for the latest. And this episode is brought to you by InstaBible app. Download InstaBible for the iPhone. Download it. Get a verse. Share it to the world. Alabama gave up the most points of the Nick Saban era in a shootout when they lost to Auburn on Saturday, 48-45, to drop a 10-2 for the season. It's the first time Alabama has lost multiple games in a season since 2013, and likely the first time it will not reach the college football playoff. And to join us to remorse over what's going on with Alabama these past couple of days or weeks, the one and only Justin Riley from Mississippi. Welcome back to the Sportscast.
To remorse. Yeah, you hit it right on the head, brother. It's been a hard Monday and a hard weekend for me being an Alabama fan. I will tell you that.
Yeah, a lot of changes going on this year, a lot of discussion. But this, let's go to the game. Iron Bowl was pretty crazy itself. It was chaotic. I think everyone was talking about it on Sunday. Most of the NFL commentators on the radio and on TV were talking about this game. And it was probably one of the best games of the season. How did you look at it?
Well, if you're not an Alabama fan and you're just a fan of football, then, yeah, it's probably one of the better games of the college football season. I mean, a lot of excitement, a lot of just craziness, pure craziness, things that you're sitting there saying, did that really just happen? It's what a rivalry game should be. Is a game that truly meant something. And like you said, this is something that was on the mouths of everyone after the game and going into the next day, even on NFL shows, and because everybody has seen the fall of Alabama, and everybody is, outside of Tuscaloosa is rejoicing, thinking the Saban era is coming to a close. Well, I want to remind you guys that it's not over yet. But as far as what I saw, truly just a mind-blowing experience. Anytime we play at Jordan-Hare, it's just, it's a circus. Things happen that just aren't the norm. And anytime there's an Auburn victory, there's a lot of little extra stuff in the air going on. And boy, did it happen. Just uncharacteristic of Alabama. One thing that was characteristic of Alabama, at least this season, was the fact that Alabama just could not quit committing penalties. They had 13 penalties for 96 yards. One of those penalties negated a touchdown. You tack that touchdown back on the board, Alabama wins this game. But you can't go back and erase things, or you can't add things. Alabama just was undisciplined. They have been all season, and it didn't change in this game. And you would think, for this game, especially with everything that's on the line, including beating your rival, that you would tighten things up, be disciplined, and be doing the right things. No, it wasn't to be. It was just mind blowing. I know I've said that a lot, but that's exactly what it is. Mental errors, mistakes. Aside from the mistakes made by Mac Jones, he really looked good. I've got to give Mac Jones props. He played tremendously, and what really was impressive to me about him, that even after the first pick six, and then the second pick six, he just kept fighting. He was like a prize fighter that just refused to go down. It's like he got hit in the mouth, and all of a sudden he's like, okay, I'm just going to keep swinging harder. And he did, and he answered every mistake with a great response. So I was really impressed with him, and I really think that the future with Mac Jones really does look bright if he does, in fact, become the starting quarterback for Alabama next year. But just a lot of crazy things happening. The extra timeout given to Auburn at the end of the first half. Couldn't believe what happened.
Kind of odd, wasn't it?
Blaming that.
Pretty odd.
What now?
Pretty odd call. Giving them 1 second. It felt it was 0, but give or take.
Well, that's the thing.
Yeah.
If you get a first down, the clock stops just long enough for the referees to get the ball in place. But as soon as the ball is in place, it's snapped and it's over. And, there is no more time left. But yet, they were given time to get their whole field goal unit out there, snap the ball, and kick it. Carlson couldn't miss, and normally he's not too, reliable. But in this game, that man could not miss. He could have been laying on the ground with a blindfold and a 300-pound man sitting on his back and still kick it and make it. It was just that kind of day for him.
Yeah, something that you definitely were bringing up about the defense, Alabama's defense. Couldn't stop it. I think if Alabama had a good defense, they would have won this game. Mac Jones, great game. I mean, not great, but it was good. He had weapons around him. Some people were saying, well, anyone could have quarterbacked this game. But I think he had an impressive. He was going into rhythm. More throughout the game, he was getting through the rhythm. But that one interception that he overthrew that went to Smokey Monday, that kind of affected him.
Well, sorry about that. And what was the question again?
I was saying that Mac Jones had a good game, not great, but good game. His weapons around him helped him out a lot with Waddle and also his running back Ruggs. But that one interception at the end also just cost Alabama the momentum.
Well, Mac Jones did play very well, and one of the things I said in our podcast last week, with Brian DeLay, is that Mac Jones didn't need to go above and beyond. Mac Jones just needed to play well and let his big-time receivers and then Najee Harris do the work for him. And then if it called for it and if he was in a rhythm, just open things up. And like you said, throughout the game, he started gaining more confidence, and he was really making some incredible throws. One of those touchdown passes he threw to Jalen Waddle in the corner of the end zone was just tremendous. But that first pick six, that was on him. It was costly, but right after that, Super Waddle returned the kick 90-something yards for a touchdown. The second pick six, it was just a fluke, freak of a play. He tosses it to Najee Harris, or tries to toss it to Najee Harris, and it bounces off his back and lands in the hands of a defender who races untouched to the end zone. So that second one, I really don't hold against him. So I don't think that really negates from his performance. But I think that Mac Jones did what he was called to do. And to be quite honest, he put Alabama in position to win that game.
It's just the defense. And, we've been talking about this for a while. I mean, like all season. This is not the Alabama defense we knew these prior years. The offense did its homework, did its job, but the defense just didn't want to help out.
It's just really mind-boggling to see the defense play at this kind of level. We've been spoiled by Saban throughout the years of just having stellar defenses, defense that shuts people out and just and draws fear from the opponent. But this year, something completely changed. And granted, there's a lot of factors that go into this. There's the coaching carousel. We got a new regime in there. And then to begin the season, we lost Dylan Moses, who was the heart and soul of that defense. And then we lost Josh McMillan, another guy with experience, a senior. So losing, players of that caliber just made a big difference. And then other people are getting hurt. Then you plug in freshmen. And when you're plugging in 18 and 19-year-olds, there is a little bit of a growing pain period where it takes some time to adjust.
There are consequences.
There are consequences, and it just takes some time. The mistakes are going to be made, and it's just part of the learning process. But, however, there's something very interesting about that. There was never any kind of maturity. No, there really was never no growth in that defense. The same problems that existed, were consistent throughout the season, and Alabama wasn't able to do what it's normally accustomed to do. Running a lot of blitz, stunning, running safety blitzes because they didn't feel confident in the linebackers who were in there to be able to contain. Anthony Jennings and Terrell Lewis had a tremendous season quietly. Their performance really was hindered by the fact that Alabama had to play it safe because of just of how bad the defense was performing. But it really did hurt a lot. And when we needed the defense the most, they just weren't there. And, it was against LSU and then here against Auburn. So, yeah, it's been a season-long problem that was never corrected, and it's very, very frustrating. So it is calling for the Alabama fans are calling for the firing of Golden. So it's bad in the eyes of Alabama fans.
Yeah, and another play was the kicker with 2 minutes left in the 3-point game. Alabama kicker Joseph Baluvas lined up a 30-yard field goal to tie the game, and Jordan Hare Stadium fell silent, then erupted as the ball caromed off the left upright. What's the deal with the kicker? I know that you guys have kicker issues in the past couple of years, but why are you guys still having these problems?
Man, it's a question that a lot of us are still asking. Since 2007, Alabama has missed a record 101 field goals. That's the most out of any program in the country, and this is under Saban's watch. And it's something that shouldn't be happening. With the ability to be able to get 5-star and 4-star players at will, the question is, okay, well, how come this isn't filtering over into the kicker position? We had it filtered over to a punter position. J.K. Scott was the best punter in America during his time with the Crimson Tide, and he's one of the top punters in the NFL right now. So how come that it can't carry over into the field goal unit? I do not know, man. And then now they tried to remedy this in this past recruiting class by picking up Will Reichert, and he was the number one kicker. However, it seems like the curse carried over to him because he really didn't get started out pretty well, but he ended up becoming injured, and he was gone for the season. And then steps Joseph Bulovas, and he's had a tough go at it his 2 years with the Crimson Tide. But let me just go ahead and say, the loss does not need to be pinned on him. No, the field goal, but Alabama had several reasons why they didn't come away from this victory. It wasn't because of a kicker alone. And a lot of people are lashing out at him, and I feel like that their anger and their frustration is misdirected. So they need to get over it. And they owe this man an apology, and it's not the other way around. Joseph Bulovas issued an apology on social media here recently, and he didn't owe anybody an apology at all. In fact, like I said, people owe him an apology.
What do you think happened to this Alabama team? Was it the coaching? The talent was there offensively, but what's up with the defense? Where would you put the blame on yesterday?
Well, it's not just yesterday. It's been a season-long thing, like I said. Injury after injury. We lost Dylan Moses, Josh McMillan. We lose LeBron Ray. We lost Raekwon Davis and Fedarian Mathis and DJ Dale. Those last couple of games. Now, Raekwon Davis was able to return in the Auburn game, but you could tell he just hadn't quite healed from his injury suffered in the Mississippi State game. So he really wasn't that effective. Like I said earlier, a coaching carousel, a lot of these guys have had 4 different years. And that's just a hard thing to get over. In the past, we were so overwhelmed with Hosses on the defensive side of the ball. Of course, all those guys are in the NFL now. But come this season, we didn't have those guys. We didn't have them, but we may have them now, but because these guys are unproven youngsters, 18, 19-year-olds who are thrown into the fire. Now, as they grow and mature, it may be a different thing. Maybe a different thing next year. We don't know. But it's just a culmination of a lot of things. I wasn't really too sold on Golden. I didn't think that he was a good hire. I honestly didn't really know much about him coming in. So, but I just thought that we were just going to plug in 5 stars like we always do and play to the same standard that Alabama's accustomed. But it wasn't to be. But the biggest thing to me was discipline. This is probably one of the most undisciplined teams out of any team that Nick Saban has coached his entire tenure. And none of that was corrected. Offensively, it did get better, but defensively, it was still an ongoing thing. Players didn't know their assignments. They didn't know where they were on the field. Hell, they had 12 men on the field. On the last play of the game.
Huge penalty.
And huge. That's players, but also that's coaching. Coaching's been an issue. Just boneheaded things and that could have been avoided, and it just isn't typical of a Nick Saban coach team. It's just a head scratcher. So how do we let that happen?
Are we seeing a fade of Alabama? Are we fading out of the Alabama dynasty?
After 1 year, I'm not going to say that just because this is just 1 year. Now, if these things become consistent, then you got to start asking that question.
Because Nick Saban ain't getting younger.
He's not getting younger. He's in his upper 60s. So, yeah, his time as a head coach is probably drawing to a close. How many more years is that? We don't know. But, yeah, you got to think about that.
A lot of talks, a lot of question marks. Of course, there has been rumored.
I will add this.
Go ahead. Finish up.
There was a lot of negative around this. But also, too, considering all that Saban's had to deal with this year, a total of 9 starters out at one time, including one of those starters being the heart and soul of your team, Tua Tagovailoa. 5 freshmen playing on the defense, new coaches, and all that, and we still end up going 10-2. That's pretty dang impressive. It wasn't the
but it was an easy schedule, wasn't it, Justin?
I will admit
anyone could cruise that schedule really easy, except LSU and Auburn.
Right, and to be honest with you, Alabama needed an easy schedule, especially with everything that we saw transpire this year. Had to play a schedule like Auburn or Florida or LSU, they may not have won 10 games, I'll be quite honest with you.
But don't you think, the scheduling was a big factor this year. I think the measuring stick was, don't you think they need a tougher schedule moving forward, or you think they could play a bunch of Citadels and 2 hard games?
It comes down to a question of getting into the playoffs. You're going to have to. However, this year, if Alabama just would have handled their business against the teams that they needed to beat, we wouldn't have been having this question, this discussion right now. If Alabama beats LSU, it's not an issue. If Alabama beats Auburn, it's not an issue because that would put them in the SEC championship playing against Georgia, and then you'd have 3 top 10 teams they would have played in the season, which is a pretty dang good schedule and enough to arguably put them in the playoff picture. But they didn't. They didn't beat those teams that they needed to beat. They beat the lesser than teams, but they didn't beat the meaningful teams.
Mac Jones had 335 yards, 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Najee Harris had 146 yards, 1 touchdown. Henry Ruggs III had 99 yards, 1 touchdown. Jalen Waddle, 98 yards, 3 touchdowns. Waddle, if I had to say the MVP for Alabama yesterday was Jalen Waddle.
Oh man, without question, and it's really interesting to watch him. Man, he's like a human highlight reel, and what was really surprising this year was that Jalen Waddle was somewhat quiet the entire season. He wasn't really quite as explosive stat-wise as we all thought he would be coming into this year. His freshman campaign was pretty phenomenal. and so we thought they would only go up from here. However, he just didn't quite produce the way we thought he would until when it mattered most. That was against the big teams and against Auburn, and it's like he was just trying to take over that game all by himself, along with Najee Harris, who played phenomenally, and just tried to do everything he possibly could to put Alabama on top.
You were talking
and
about
denied.
Yeah, you were talking about Golden, the defensive coordinator. Now, we've been hearing rumors about Charlie Strong. Does a coach change need to be done in the defense?
Well, I think that a change needs to be made just because what we saw this year on the field, nothing got better. The discipline issues just persisted. Penalties persisted. No growth took place, and it just was completely out of hand. And to be honest with you, if you're going to coach Alabama, you're going to need someone with a much better pedigree than Golding. And there are rumors swirling around right now about Charlie Strong, and he's probably one of the best defensive minds in the game. He's not a great head coach; he's one of the guys who excels at being an assistant and a coordinator. And if Alabama could possibly get him, if they depart from Golden, I think that corrects a lot of issues.
Is this the worst coaching staff you've seen under Saban?
I don't know if it's worse. I just don't think they're very productive.
Not the greatest.
And definitely not the greatest. This probably had to have been one of the toughest coaching seasons that Saban's had since 2007.
Yeah, I mean, Sarkisian wasn't sexy either.
I will. Some people are saying that, but I disagree. Sarkisian really did very well with that offense. The problems that happened this year wasn't because the offense wasn't producing. Now, they're scoring 40-plus points a game, almost 50 points a game. They are producing the way they need to, and Sarkisian was doing very well, and especially with Mac Jones and his development. So I can't pin this on Sarkisian.
You got a point there. Where do you see which bowl will Alabama play in a few weeks?
Oh man, a lot of people are thinking it's possibly going to be the Cotton Bowl,
Not bad.
Which is a very good bowl. I would much rather play something on New Year's Day, like the Sugar or something like that. But more than likely, the loser of the SEC championship will be headed there. But the Cotton Bowl is a good bowl. Very good for Alabama. Would love to see them there.
And will they set out their seniors?
Well, that's another thing that comes into question here is that if you're not in the playoffs, any of these draft-eligible players, especially those who are projected high, more oftentimes than not are going to sit. And so you got to wonder, since they don't have anything to play for other than a bowl trophy, what would be their motivation to play this last game? And I hate it. I mean, I understand it. I hate it because when you're going to a bowl game, I want best on best. So, but we may not see it, but we'll see.
SEC championship game carries the most college football playoff implications of any title bout. The number 2 LSU Tigers are one step away from entering the playoffs with an undefeated record against Ohio State and Clemson. However, the 4th-ranked Georgia Bulldogs could complicate those plans by solidifying their own playoff berth with a win Saturday at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. Kirby Smart's team carries an edge in experience since this is its 3rd straight December trip to Atlanta, while LSU is making its first SEC championship game appearance since 2011. Justin, how do you see this game?
Woo. This is probably going to be the most intriguing championship game of the weekend. I honestly don't feel like the Ohio State and Wisconsin is going to be all that entertaining.
Can Georgia pull this off?
Yeah, I think they possibly can. I think a lot of people have just written Georgia off, and I don't think that they're getting enough respect. And one of the biggest reasons why Georgia is getting doubts from people is just offensively. They're just not sexy when it comes to offense. They're not really generating a whole lot. It's like they're doing just enough to win their games because they got a heck of a defense, probably one of the best in the country, that's able to shut their opponents down. Which they're going to have quite a task ahead of them slowing down this LSU offense. Now, Auburn was able to do it, and Florida was able to do it somewhat. So I don't see any reason why Georgia would have any problems, slowing them down. It's just a question: can Georgia generate enough offense, and can Jake Fromm deliver on the big stage?
Something to definitely look at. Big matchup. It looks like if Georgia wins, they'll get into the playoffs. LSU can't afford a loss. Don't you think?
Well, if you look, yeah, I really think so. If LSU loses to Georgia, it's, I guess, a good loss, and I don't see the voters dropping them out of the top four. It'd be I'll be very shocked if it happened, and I think at that point you're going to have two SEC teams in the college football playoff. The only reason I see they don't is just because they're going to fight the SEC fatigue, and they're not going to let two teams in. But to be honest with you, even a one-loss LSU team is probably better than some of the other one-loss teams that are out there just because of who they've beaten.
Comments say LSU is in no matter win or loss. Georgia is out with some playmakers. Will that be a factor?
Well, yeah, absolutely, because they're on the offensive side of the ball. Cager is probably their best receiver, and he's going to be out. They have another one of their receivers who's going to be missing the first half because he was a moron. I'm hearing that Swift might not be able to go or may not be 100%. They can do without the receivers, but Swift is an X factor. They really, really need to have him there, and they need to have a big game from him to be able to stay in this. But more importantly, this is a Jake Fromm show me moment.
Exactly, and also see how his draft stock either stays the same, goes up, or goes down. Before we move out of the SEC, any positive notes on Auburn?
Any positive notes? Well, yeah, man, they won. That's a big positive.
Was Bo Nix a good quarterback, better than we thought?
I don't want to be that bitter fan and talk bad about him, but Bo Nix wasn't a reason that Auburn won that game. He didn't do anything spectacular that just elevated Auburn's play. He didn't do anything that was mind-blowing. Now, there were some moments where Alabama allowed him to look like Joe Burrow, but it wasn't something that just happened over the whole course of the game where he was the reason that they did what they did. Auburn capitalized on Alabama shooting themselves in the foot, and that's what you're supposed to do. And they got the W because they made less mistakes and they capitalized on Alabama's boneheaded decisions.
Yeah, definitely. Auburn had a good game. Only won by 3 points, but they definitely capitalized on Alabama mistakes.
Right. Even if those 3 points, it's still a victory.
It's still a victory, so, and they saw it. I think they studied Alabama's weaknesses and they capitalized it, and there you have it. But Auburn finished, pretty strong in the SEC, third in the SEC West. Great performance. Malzahn, does he still have a job?
Well, anytime that you beat your rival and you beat Nick Saban as often as he had, I think that his job is secure because that's just a big deal in this rivalry. Now, the question is that enough for Auburn fans to be content? Beating Nick Saban is a pretty big feat, but at some point, they probably want to start seeing some titles come their way, and it hadn't happened in quite some time.
Since Cam Newton, right? No, after Cam Newton, they won a title, right?
Well, they got to the SEC championship. They won that, and they got to the national championship game. But they didn't win it. They lost to Florida State.
That's how much deep they did. Staying in the SEC, Lane Kiffin looks like he's going to Arkansas. Is that a good spot for Lane?
Well, yeah, he's done some good things at Florida Atlantic. They've won 9 games this year, and he had a very productive year. His first year last year wasn't too good, but overall he's done a really good job. And considering the talent level he has, and he's produced some NFL players, One of his players right now is splitting time with Frank Gore for the Buffalo Bills, and that's Devin Singletary, and he's a very good back. But he's been able to do some really good things, and he really has shown that he's grown as a coach. And I think that if he was to go to Arkansas or any number of these other openings, that he would do very well. The only thing is, if you go to Arkansas, you're competing against Alabama, Auburn, LSU,
Big boys.
The big boys, not on the field but off the field for recruiting. So that's a tall order, to step into. However, I feel like he could get it done. I would like to see old Lane Kiffin back in the SEC.
Yeah, Lane is he's pretty much decided word of mouth. He just hasn't signed on the bottom line, apparently. Rumors, he's up in Boca Raton, not too far away here from the Sportscast headquarters. Joe Bentley.
Have him step in.
Joe Bentley from South Carolina is entering the transfer portal. Where should he go? Jake Bentley.
Jake Bentley, man. Of course, we all saw it coming just because of how well Helinski played coming off the bench, and it didn't look like he was ever going to turn the reins back over. And quite honestly, he has outperformed Bentley. Bentley, to me, was a guy that I kept on waiting to see take the next path to stardom, but he never would take it. So, with this remaining eligibility he has, I would love to see him take the next step. It's just kind of the question, where would he fit in right now? Oregon's going to need a quarterback next year. That might be a place that he could look at.
Alabama?
And, no, we're still waiting to see what Tua Tagovailoa does. We're assuming he's gone. But we got Mac Jones, we got Talia, and then we got Bryce Young. So I think that we are okay there. So he's not going to Alabama, but it will be interesting to see where he could go. Washington's going to need a quarterback.
Yeah, which keep in mind, like the best Alabama teams never had the greatest quarterbacks either.
Historically, no. We just have had the guy that could do just enough to guide Alabama to victory. But, of course, that was back when we had a tremendous run game, and then offenses at that time were drastically different from what we're seeing in this day and age. Of course, this day and age, you're needing a solid quarterback to get things done, especially with an offensive-minded, system, predominant system in college football.
My gut and my feelings say that Mac Jones will be back, and then Talia might come in the fold slowly if he's good. I mean, I'm sure they got him for a reason, but I think he'll probably come in. But I think Mac Jones is like what's it called? What's the name of the quarterback a couple years ago in Alabama? It's not Joe Scarborough.
Bo Scarborough was a running back of ours, but we've had A.J. McCarron. You comparing him to A.J. McCarron?
No, the one after McCarron.
Blake Sims?
No, right after him.
Jake Coker?
Oh gosh, let me look back in the history books. Look back at Wikipedia. But
you talking about the last quarterback who won a national championship for Alabama?
Yeah, what was his name?
Jake Coker. Other than Tua, yeah. Jake Coker won the national championship in 15.
Yeah, like he wasn't amazing. He just just did what he had to do, and obviously he's not playing in the NFL. So looks like Tyler's saying Bentley's not going to Oregon. Oregon does not want him, but it's up to Oregon and Bentley. Another big news today in coaching was Chris Peterson. He resigns as Washington head coach. The Huskies announced today. He stepped down after the team's bowl game. Defensive coordinator Jimmy Lake will take over as head coach, and Peterson will assume an advisory role with the school. What are your thoughts about that?
I'm in shock. I didn't see that coming, and not really sure what the reasoning behind it is. I mean, the guy's a tremendous coach. Of course, we all know what he was able to do at Boise State. I believe he only lost 7 games during his entire tenure there, which included undefeated seasons, and then that tremendous season where they were able to upset Oklahoma in the bowl game, probably one of the best games I ever saw. And then he was able to come to Washington and get them to levels that they hadn't seen in a long time, or quite frankly, I don't think they'd ever seen. They got to college football playoff appearance, and they Pac-12 championship. He's just done some great things. There's no denying what he's been able to do as a coach, and then also what he's been able to do as far as developing players and developing young men. I've heard nothing but positive from former players, analysts, and just people across the country just speaking on his behalf. I just wonder what's happening. Is there something with his health, or is it something that we need to be concerned about? But it's just truly shocking to see him stepping down.
It could be a very stressful job coaching football or any other sport. We had a Twitter poll earlier this year asking who are the top 3 coaches, and a lot of our followers said Chris Peterson was in the top 3 with Nick Saban and Dabo Swinney. So quite shocking, but hopefully he's well. Maybe he just needs to take a break and come back to coaching in a season or two. So anyways, anything else before we head into game predictions? College football championship week edition.
I will go a step out of the college football arena, and I will give a huge shout-out to my Baltimore Ravens.
Barely won.
But they won.
They won like Auburn by 3 points.
Okay, you didn't have to just do that. You didn't have to attach Auburn to this.
Are you that bitter?
It ruined my victory. That was a victory I needed this weekend. Okay,
I don't think that victory was enough.
And before you added that taint to it, I was going to say the Baltimore Ravens won on the leg of the greatest kicker in NFL history, Justin Tuck. At the end there, he's Mr. Automatic, and man, just won a great game. And
but the Niners did slow him down a little bit. Definitely, I saw that.
What's that?
The Niners defense slowed him down a bit.
Man, that's an incredible defense, and we may have been watching a preview of the Super Bowl, but of course we got a lot of games to be played. But tremendous victory, big test for the Ravens. They came away with the win. Just very impressed and really excited to see what they're doing this year.
Now they're number 1 in AFC after the Patriots lost against the Texans last night by a touchdown. Patriots don't look good without Gronk. It feels like they're still trying to recover since his departure, but they can find good. I mean, they have receivers, but not as good as they thought.
Yeah, they could have gotten O.J. Howard when it was time to trade folks, but they didn't go after him.
That's right.
There you go.
O.J. Howard, Tampa Bay Buccaneer tight end.
But don't count the Patriots out, man. They're the Patriots, and when it comes closer to playoff time and in playoff time, they go to a whole nother level.
Well, there you have it. That's our NFL update. Baltimore Ravens, I think they're going to go deep, but if they have home field advantage, it's not going to be good for the Patriots, but you never know. Patriots beat Kansas City in Kansas City last year, but Kansas City ain't no Baltimore Ravens, and the Kansas City had a good win last night against the Raiders. I think it was like 38-0 or something. But anyways, are you ready for game predictions?
Do it.
Let's start with ACC, Virginia versus Clemson.
To be honest with you, I don't feel like this is going to be a contest. I feel like Virginia's going to come out and they're going to play inspired, but that's not going to last very long. Right now, and I'm not slighting Virginia at all. Congratulations on their accomplishment and for getting to the title game the first time, I believe, in their conference history. But Clemson is playing at an incredible level right now, and right now Clemson has been dealing with a lot of hate. I said in our last podcast that people have been disrespecting them the entire year. And it's understandably so, considering they haven't played a tough schedule. But also people were just forgetting about them. They're flat out ignoring them, and it's like a foregone conclusion that they're going to be the gimme team in the playoff to go out. So they're hearing all that, and I think this is going to fuel a monster. So I believe they make short work of this Virginia team, and they blow them out.
Big Ten championship.
10.
10, Clemson, no matchup. Big Ten championship, Ohio State versus Wisconsin.
It's going to be a decent game. I think that Wisconsin's going to play inspired and play better than they did in the first contest. But I just don't think, aside from Jonathan Taylor, they have the offensive horses, especially a quarterback, to be able to hang with Ohio State. Ohio State is just way too good. and they're playing at championship level right now. Ohio State will win this game 48-24.
Ohio State's looking good, undefeated. Another game where they could probably lose and still go to the playoffs.
They won't lose.
Big 12 championship. Who you got?
Well, this is an interesting rematch. You know, if you missed the first the first round of this series, you missed a great game. And from the majority of the game, Baylor was leading Oklahoma, and Oklahoma had to pull off some late heroics to be able to come away with this victory. And I think Baylor's going to try to repeat the same thing again. However, I think this is a focused Oklahoma team. I don't think they're going to make the same mistakes they did the first go-around. And I think Jalen Hurts is going to go off. I think he will pass for 350 yards and run for an additional 150, guiding the Oklahoma Sooners to a victory, 38-17.
Pac-12 championship. Oregon versus the surprising Utah Utes.
What's a Ute?
If they win, they might go to the playoffs, Justin. This is how serious this game is.
This game, I mean, I'm going back and forth just because I really felt like Oregon was a better team than they've been playing as of late. I feel like for whatever reason they've been playing uninspired and lethargic, maybe even complacent, because they probably felt like they could, and that they could just do just enough just to skate by. You know, it bit them in the butt against Arizona State, but, you know, and they were able to do just enough to beat Oregon State just because they're that much better than Oregon State. I just want to know which Oregon team is going to show up in this contest.
You mean which Justin Herbert is going to show up?
That's a good question. Where's old Herbie? Because he's just been kind of laying an egg when they needed him the most. And I agree with Tyler's rant earlier in his podcast.
Most of the show was about him, Justin Herbert.
Well, and rightfully so. I mean, Herbert's performance has just been craptacular.
But we concluded that he's not going anywhere below a first round. He's going to stick in the first round of the NFL draft.
Well, yeah, be that as may, it doesn't negate the crap show that he's been putting on the last couple of weeks, especially from a leadership standpoint. You know, things are going wrong. He's over there, you know, playing solitaire or Candy Crush instead of being with his team, getting in their face, saying, "Let's go," you know, and motivating them and getting them worked up. No, he's not. That's a red flag to me, and that's going to be a red flag to NFL owners who are going to draft him. They're going to draft him high just because of potential and because of his big arm and his
physicality.
His physicality. But, you know, what I've been seeing here as of late is something that's is drawing a flag for me. But, you know, I'm going off on a tangent here.
It's okay.
This is going to be a good game. I feel like Utah should win, but I really feel like the Ducks are going to show up for this one. The Ducks are going to beat Utah and keep Utah out of the playoff. You
go for Oregon. I don't have trust in Oregon, to be honest. I'm choosing Utah. That's my final prediction. I'm not. Oregon could make it a close game. I told Tyler either Utah wins by a touchdown or by a field goal. It's not going to be a blowout, but that's for sure. But he did make a point that Utah does not have the best talent in the world either. So,
but they're the best coached on that field. I will say that.
Yeah.
And Whittingham gets the absolute best out of his players.
Herbert's quote today that really stood off Tyler was Herbert said, "The best part, the game's not decided on my individual performance. It's who scores the most points, and we did that today." Quote of the week by Justin Herbert.
Well, I'm sure he did. He's not going to take ownership of anything. Great job, buddy.
Let's go to the SEC in Atlanta at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Georgia versus LSU. I think Chick-fil-A sponsors that.
It does. Man, I really, my gut is telling me to go for Georgia in this one in the upset. I feel like a lot of people are overlooking them, and they really have the defensive horses to slow LSU down. I just wonder, can they do just enough on the offense to be able to beat the Tigers? I'm going back and forth.
Well, keep in mind, Georgia does not have their stars completely. I think they're playing some bench players.
Yeah,
But we don't know if they're good.
But,
I mean, they could be good.
I think it depends on what Swift is able to do. But I'm going to go with LSU in this one.
There you go.
I think it's going to be
Attaboy.
a 3-point victory.
You know, I mean, I'm telling you, LSU is no friend with is no friend of Alabama or Georgia. But you know, if you had to choose between the two, you go with the. I can't say the lesser of two evils, but LSU is more of a rival than Georgia is. You know, for Alabama.
Yeah,
because you got to play LSU every year.
But I honestly feel like if LSU would have a better chance in the playoffs than Georgia would be, you know, to go against Ohio State or Clemson. But that's just my thought.
Tonight, Monday Night Football in Seattle, Minnesota Vikings visit the Seattle Seahawks. Who do you got?
Oh, man. I like Minnesota, but I'm going to go with Russell Wilson and his boys. I got to pull for the Seahawks in this one.
He's having a MVP type of season, so people are talking about him, but you know, still, Lamar Jackson is still the talk of the town. But yeah, it's definitely going to be a good game tonight. I got a few fantasy players playing tonight, but I don't know if I'm going to pull through. Random question: what is your favorite brand to shop from?
What do you mean?
Like favorite brand to shop? Apple, Nike, Supreme, Levi's. From those four, where's your favorite brand to shop?
I say Nike, man.
Nike's winning.
Alabama.
Yeah.
And I like to pick up my Alabama gear, but I feel like they're the best provider of sports related gear, so I'm going to go with them.
They're winning 64%. Apple 18%. Levi's and Supreme are tied at 9%.
Well, understandable.
Nike, obviously, this is a sports platform, so you expect more Nike people. But I thought Apple might have some competition with the AirPods and AirPods Pro. But I guess, you know, Nike wins.
Maybe one day, but Nike's still the giant. So.
Justin Riley, what is the best way to reach you to talk to you about Joe Burrow?
Well, you can actually find me with my personal handle at 121training. That's the number 12, one spelled out training. That's on Twitter and Instagram. But you also can indirectly find me running our Sportscast Twitter account and Instagram account at the Sportscast1. I do a lot of our live tweeting and posting and whatnot. So those are 4 different venues that you can find me at.
I would like to give a shout-out to Drew Lock. Won his first NFL game yesterday, beating the Chargers 23-20. He's with the Broncos, had 134 yards, 2 touchdowns, but 1 interception. But he won the game.
That's it. He got it done.
Good job, Drew Lock, coming back. He is the foreseeable franchise quarterback for the Denver Broncos. Keep that in mind. And you can reach us at thesportscast.net. Watch out for our site. There's a lot of going on this week in college football. I didn't see this coming. Maybe no one else in the Sportscast. But there's a lot of coaching changes, a lot of players announcing the transfers. There's some one of their defensive men that just who announced a couple of hours ago that he's going to join the transfer portal. Me and Justin have been talking about that. It's been a new trend these past couple of years where players just want to go to a different team and just want to win championships or whatever, or they're just tired of just being at that team, even though the team is pretty decent. I believe the transfer to Miami wants to stay. The Miami quarterback, Martell, I think is his name.
Yeah.
Yeah. He says he's going to stay with Miami. I thought he was going to move out, but if you're moving out too many times, you become a journeyman. Wow, Justin, what a show. Alabama, Auburn, re-listen to it again. Really, if I had to grade Alabama this year, I'll give them a C.
That's tough.
I give them a C. I mean, how about you?
Well, you're comparing them to Alabama standard.
It is. I mean, you got to.
Alabama, that's what you have to. I think all things considered, injuries, losing Tua, all
scheduling
that stuff. I'll give them a B.
You don't see anything wrong with the scheduling, don't you? You don't. You'll defend it. They did fine. They could play 10 Citadels, and that's fine with you.
Well, I do, but given the situation this year, Alabama needed an easy schedule to get through all the craziness. But the biggest thing was they didn't beat who they needed to beat.
Even though they like their easy schedule, if things went out perfectly or lost by one game, they could have still gone to the playoffs. That's how strong this Alabama team. But Alabama will roll Tide on one of the greatest franchises, greatest school programs in college football. It's going to be unprecedented. Alabama is definitely in the Mount Rushmore of college football. Nick Saban in the coaches Mount Rushmore. So no doubt he might be better than Bear Bryant. That is debatable, but he could be. Anyways, Justin Riley, roll Tide.
Roll Tide, glad to be on.